Hey, welcome. Welcome to bringyourworth.tv. My name is Damon Brown. Let me get you guys set up on Amazon so you can see what's happening. It's so exciting to be on all these different platforms, but it does require a little bit of a octopus energy. I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown. I'm here to help you as a side hustler, solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. I did my two startups, most notably Cuddler, bootstrapped both of them while being a stay-at-home dad to my wife and I's first child. Now, we got two little kids. The eldest one, who I was taking care of, actually just about to turn 11. So it's been quite a journey. Since then, I've done books. Some of y'all made them bestsellers and helping y'all level up with whatever resources, restrictions, um, whatever you're working with, helping you get to the next level, despite or maybe even because of the limitations that you have, and teaching y'all how to embrace those limitations as much as possible. I come to you every Wednesday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. I sometimes fluctuate the schedule, but right now it's every Wednesday just with all the stuff that's going on, which I'm going to get into in a moment. But it's been a beautiful, beautiful period of time where I've been busy, spend a lot of time with the family, and spend a lot of time with you guys. Wednesdays is working out for me. There are 372 episodes before this, so if you're missing having me a couple times a week, that's a good way to get a little taste of what's happening. My latest book is the complete Bring Your Worth collection, the complete collection. Almost every single business book that I've done in the past 8 years. The Ultimate Bites Entrepreneur. Thank you for making a bestseller. Bring Your Worth, the eponymous show, right? Or the eponymous name, and Build From Now, my personal favorite. They're all in here. Deluxe edition. You can cop it now. If you're on Amazon, you can click the links. If you're on any of the platforms, you can go and click the links below. If you want to get it directly from my little hands, you can go to damonbrown.net. All the links are below, and I'll sign it for you and all that good stuff. If you or someone that you know is really, really needs this information, but either you can't afford to get the book right now, or a lot of y'all are traveling, you know who I'm talking to. Good luck with your travels. If there's stuff that's going on where you're not able to get a physical book, or you don't have the resources to get an audiobook right now, it's all available, the whole thing, unabridged, right now on bringyourworth.tv. It's my gift to you. It's about 8 hours long. If you do not feel like you do not have 8 hours, then listen to a few minutes a day, or I live in beautiful Las Vegas, which is very mountainous. People don't always realize this. So it's a whole lot of nature here. There's even some snow in some of the mountains. So I'll go outside, I'll take a walk and listen to my favorite audiobooks. I wanted to kind of give that gift to you guys and go from there. And if you're interested in the political scene, what's happening, not as far as partisan politics where Republican, Democrats, Independent, Green Party, and all that stuff, but more like discussing how government decisions are affecting all of us. I have a new platform over at Moxie. Shout out to Moxie, as well as Carlos, the founder over there. I hope you're doing well. If you want to join Moxie and get some of that information, a lot of it coming from me as well as from my colleagues, you know some of them, if you've been following my work, you can get it for free for 60 days. Use the code Brown Damon. And if you missed last week's episode, so many of y'all had great feedback. There was a lot of discussions in the commentary, even after the fact. There's so much feedback I've gotten in my DMs. Accepting your shadow. The shadow is a term. The first time I heard it was from Carl Jung, not from him directly, unfortunately. He was long past by the time I was studying him in college. But that part of yourself that you do not accept, we get all into it, even some commentary. Shout out to y'all that came through. Handful of y'all came through. We talked the talk. Figuring out how to integrate that part of yourself that you're not happy with. That's such an important part as an entrepreneur, as a creator. Just if you're trying to make an impact in the world, you gotta know your dark side. We talked all about that. In fact, it was a long episode. I want to say it was about an hour, just over an hour long. Do not sleep on it. Check it out. Today's episode, which I've already gotten feedback on, I just put the title out there. How to deal with difficult people. Man, you guys are already revving up. As soon as I put it out there yesterday, it was like, are we going to talk about this type of person? What about this type of person? Energy's already there. The fact is that we as humans, as we say today, we are social beings. Well before Zuckerberg was even born. We are social beings. We need to interact with other people. No man or woman or person is an island. That's how it works. So if you're going to be building a business, if you're going to make an impact on the world, you're eventually going to have to work with other people. I talked about this in the shadow episode last week, as well as previous episodes, but particularly last week's episodes, where I am ridiculously independent. If you buy a book from me, Most of my books are actually under the Damon Brown name, as in Bring Your Worth Publishing. You can check it out at the Library of Congress. I have this TV show, all these other things that I do independently. And even I have dozens of relationships, whether it's vendors who do the t-shirts or other things that I need to interact with people. So if you're going to run across people that you're not going to get along with, and also often you're going to have to find ways to get along with them. This episode talks about ways and tools you can use to do so. So I'm excited. Let's just get into it. Let's get into it. So the first question that I often get as a business coach, I've coached hundreds of people. The biggest question I get is, why the hell are difficult people so difficult? Why are you making life hard? Life should be easy or at least manageable. Why are you making it difficult? That's always a big question. As talked about in the shadow episode last week, part of it has to do with you. Whatever triggers you, whatever trauma you have. I'm not mincing words here. Whatever trauma you have and that behavior that this person or this organization, sometimes it's organizations, I got stories. Sometimes it's whole organizations or whole business cultures that just grate your nerves. So when I say people, I mean this in the broadest sense of the word. That's often related to our own past history. That's why it's important to know your shadow self. Again, the link is right down below if you want to watch that one. When it comes to other people, it usually comes down to a couple of different things. And in fact, I found it's usually two. The first thing is, again, past trauma. So if you're in a situation, you're interacting with someone who has been bullied and or stabbed in the back multiple times by people that they love, then there's going to be often a layer of distrust towards anybody else. It doesn't even have to do with you. That's probably the biggest gem. Often when people are being difficult, it has absolutely nothing to do with you. They're thinking about their bully that beat them up years ago, or might even be beating them up now. Let's keep it honest. They could be thinking about their parent or their guardian who didn't give them love. And so they're assuming that you're not going to give them love or that they're unlovable. And it comes out in these weird projected ways. Again, we talked about this in the shadow episode. There's almost like a part 2 to last week's episode. So it ends up being projected in these weird ways. And when it comes out in these weird ways, it's easy to think it's about you. But often, whether you're personally triggered or not, it has to do with them. So number one, difficult people can be difficult because of past trauma. And depending on what's happening, we all can be difficult people. Let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it honest. I can be really difficult sometimes if I'm being triggered in a certain way based on my own trauma that I'm processing. Stuff I've talked about in my books, so I'm pretty transparent with that. Nobody's perfect. And so if you're dealing with difficult people, understand that that's more of how they're appearing versus them just being difficult people. Just like you can be a difficult person, even though you might not intend on being that. So number one, it's based on past trauma. People might react a certain way based on that. The second part of it is based on circumstances. They might be super uncomfortable. I had some medical stuff happen earlier this year, nothing deep, but it happened. And I realized that everybody was getting on my freaking nerves. And then I realized I'm like, oh, I'm actually tired. I need to slow down a little bit, which is part of the reason for my break earlier this year. So it's like, I need to slow down a little bit. Oh, that's my stuff. I don't have the tolerance for this because I have a headache. I don't have the tolerance for this because actually I haven't eaten that well this week, so I need to eat more. Whatever is out of balance. Often that's an internal thing. The thing is that we don't always have the self-awareness to know, number one, when we're being difficult, and number two, that we're so off balance, and it's making it feel like everybody else is being difficult. The wonderful saying, which I did a whole video about, and I'll do the clean version of it, is that if you wake up one morning and run into a person and they're being a jerk, then it's like, all right, they're being a jerk. If you run into a second person that day and they're being a jerk, then it's like, wow, I keep running into jerks. If you run into a third person, you are the jerk. One of my favorite sayings of all time, work with it, take it how you will. Replace the word jerk with whatever colorful word you want to use, and that'll help you on your way. So when people are being difficult, understand that their difficulty might come from past trauma, which has nothing to do with you, or the circumstances that they're in, which also has nothing to do with you. Oftentimes, frankly, it's not you, it's them. What you need to do is understand how you're being triggered and when you're being the proverbial jerk. You might have seen, shout out to Dr. Charmaine, my shirt, my favorite shirt. My family's tired of seeing it. Get you a therapist. That helps somebody. And I don't mean therapy like going to the gym or going for a walk or go having sex or whatever. All fantastic things. But actually talking to someone who's a professional who can guide you a certain way and help you in a certain way to get you out of your own way, that's priceless. I'm seeing one right now. I'm walking the walk. And I got to tell you, it's a world of difference. So if you're dealing with a difficult person, the only person you can really control is yourself. And so if you can control yourself better, understand yourself better, it gets a lot calmer. My favorite book right now, let me go ahead and find it. Oh, there. My own catalog was underneath it. It was underneath my own catalog. The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I did not do great in Spanish in high school, I'm afraid to say. Fantastic book. It is tiny. I reread it about a week ago. I'm about to reread it again. And you see a couple dog ears there. I read it in like an evening. In fact, I think I read a little bit to my kids when I was putting them to bed a couple weeks ago. Fantastic book. The Four Agreements are really simple. I can read it to you right now. Number one, be impeccable with your word. If you're making a commitment, honor it. Number two, we're just talking about this. Don't take anything personally, because 95% of the time it has absolutely zip, bupkis, nothing to do with you. Number three, do not make assumptions. Don't assume you know why people are doing things. I have a hard time with this. Especially, I'm a business coach. I love psychology. It's easy for me to think that I know why people are doing things. And then sometimes you talk with people, which helps, and you realize that's not the reason they're doing it anyway. And number four, always do your best. You work with that, and a lot of these difficult people, difficult situations, a lot of them will start to melt away. My most popular video on the channel, next to my own TED Talk. Thank you to the good folks at TED for getting me on the stage for the second stage of TED many years ago, which a lot of ways ended up helping my career. My most popular video on the channel after that is this one, Accept People More with One Simple Question. I'm not even going to say the question right now. It's already hidden all the stuff that I said. It's based on Brene Brown's work. Shout out to Brene. 7 minutes video. A lot of y'all have watched it. A lot of y'all subscribe because you're watching it. Please, if you've not seen this video, not for the sake of the channel, but for you, be sure and check it out. It is a popular video for a reason, because Brene Brown's question is so powerful. I can't even take credit for it. It's her question. I just phrased it in a way that resonated with y'all. Be sure and check it out if we're talking about difficult people. And again, today we're talking about difficult people, how to deal with difficult people. How do you deal with difficult people? Feel free to jump into the chats. Is there a situation that you're dealing with right now? I'm not going to get all Dr. Phil or Dr. Laura. I don't like either one of them, to be honest. I'm not going to be on that vibe. But if there's something you want to share, or some way that you're trying to process how to deal with difficult people, throw it in the chat, or if you have your own recommendations. So, how do I talk with challenging folks? I just mentioned that if you're actually dealing with a challenging situation, one of the best things you can do is actually try to find a way to talk with the person. If you're not talking with the person, then again, it's easy to make those assumptions. Again, shout out to Don Miguel Ruiz. Make assumptions about why they're doing it. And also, it's possible to start, unfortunately, reacting to things that aren't really there. It's almost like an illusion with it. I'd say the first thing is to consider their POV, their point of view. If they're coming from a particular place, then maybe they're reacting based on how they had to be in that place. I have a lot of close family and even spent some time in the inner city. Shout out to Camden over in South Jersey, where I'm originally from. I was born in Atlantic City, but spent some time there. Their perspective on things is going to be different than my in-laws in California, or my good friends in SF, or my distant relatives down in Louisiana. Like, their vibe's going to be completely different. So if we're having a so-called difficult time, then I need to consider their POV. And maybe there's parts of their POV that they're defending against or feel a way about, or maybe my POV clashes with theirs. So consider their perspective. Like, you have to factor that. Not everyone thinks the same, just like you do. That's probably the biggest fallacy when we go into difficult situations, or difficult situations arise, is that we assume people are thinking the exact same way we are. They're not at all. Number one, they're probably not thinking about you. Number two, they're not thinking the same way you do. Even people with the similar background, similar vibe, even some of my closest friends, like blood brothers and sisters of mine, we don't think the same, even though our backgrounds have been similar. So figure that part out. And number two, as Don Miguel Ruiz says, do not make assumptions. So if you're not sure where someone's coming from, ask them. Hey, you're acting like this. Like you may not even act like this. You made this particular decision, and I thought we were talking about going that direction. Why did you make that decision? And just let them talk, and not in an accusatory term way, but shout out to Jonathan Fields, who's doing his work over at Sparked. You can actually see an interview with him over at bringyourworth.tv. I don't have the link here, but you can just look up Jonathan Fields and Bring Your Worth, and you'll find it on there. Shout out to him. He has fantastic books out there. But he always talks about that is instead of being defensive, be curious. Yeah, you feel like this person acted a certain way and was unkind. But why did they act that way? If this person is known to be, and is a wonderful quote from a book I'm about to mention, but it's like if this person is otherwise rational or otherwise thoughtful, and then they're doing this thing over here, what circumstances will make them do that? What doesn't make any sense? Sorry, pointing at you, James. But what wouldn't? Shout out to James Baldwin. But what would make them act a certain way? And once you start to unpeel that, then you're like, oh, well, why did that happen? Oh, that's because this happened and you thought I was coming like that. No, that's not how I feel at all. I actually feel like this. So that action that you did was unnecessary because I wasn't even thinking like that. Like that's when the breakthroughs happen. When you put the judgment away, you become more curious. Again, shout out to Jonathan Fields, as well as the next book I'm going to mention, which is Crucial Conversations. Shout out to my mom who actually recommended this book with some of the work she does. I love you. I appreciate this. Fantastic book. To be honest, I've rarely read it all the way through. It's more like certain sections, and it's a small book, but certain sections or chapters where I need it. And I'm like, I need to have an uncomfortable conversation. How do I do this? There's so many, as the rappers say, there's so many bars in there. There's so many lines. There's so many lyrics. There's so many parts. I couldn't even pick one for today. But there's so much fantastic goodness in there about having these conversations. And in my definition, crucial conversation is something that you can't just let sit there. Again, my intention with today's episode isn't for the people that are in the office who get on your nerves and you just go the other way when you're going to get coffee. I'm not talking about them. I'm not talking about the relative that you see once a year and they grate your nerves. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the people you actually need to interact with. And I talk about this in the newsletter at joindamon.me. If you go to joindamon.me right now, you can get my newsletter from this morning. It's every Wednesday for free at 5:55 a.m. Go ahead and subscribe for free. I think I mentioned it was free. It's free. How many frees did I put in there? But it is free. I mentioned this where it's like it could be a co-founder. It could be a life partner. It could be somebody else you're doing business with. It could be your family that you really have a close connection to or that you live with. You can't just avoid those conversations. Crucial Conversation gives you the tools, in my opinion, to get straight with it, to get good with it. And a fantastic book. I can't recommend it more. And thanks again, Mom, for recommending it ages ago. How to Have Uncomfortable Conversations. It's a live show from, I want to say, late last year that I did, very similar format to this, where I go even deeper into having uncomfortable conversations. This is about dealing with difficult people. This episode I'm pointing to, I forget what episode it is. It's back in the 200s. That one is specifically about talking to people. Go a little bit deeper with that and see what's up. Again, we are talking about how to get along with people. Well, I guess we can just call it how to get along with people. How to get along, how to deal with difficult people. If you have any questions or comments, hop in there. Again, my name is Damon Brown. I come to you every Wednesday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. Shout out to y'all on Amazon, on Meta/YouTube, whatever you guys are calling it now. Shout out to my LinkedIn fam. Shout out to the people that are directly on there, bringyourworth.tv. Any question or comments, throw it in there. Let's see what's happening. The last question, how can I maintain boundaries? You might ask, Damon, what does boundaries have to do with it? Boundaries have to do everything with it because boundaries end up setting up how difficult things can get. So if you're dealing with someone who you already have a difficult relationship or connection with, and then you don't have proper boundaries, then that person can walk all over you based on how you might be feeling. You might start walking all over them because of the response to it. You might have certain things that you have an issue with that they might not even be aware of because you haven't set those boundaries, or at least you haven't stated them. So number one is to figure out what you will accept and what you won't accept. I'll accept this relative talking loud during the holiday dinner. I will not accept them saying anything about my kids. This is all made up. I love you all, family. But you understand what I'm getting at. That's a boundary. I don't want them to talk loud during the holiday dinner, but they're a loud talker. And actually, I come from a family of loud talkers. But, they're a loud talker. Okay, so that's not something I want, but that's okay. That's annoying. It's annoying. It's annoying. But they say one word about my kids, I'm afraid I'm going to jump over the holiday table, over the dinner table. So I need to set some type of boundaries, back to communications, with them, or give them feedback. Be like, yeah, I'm not comfortable with you talking about my kids. I want you to talk about something else. And look them dead in the eye or whatever. It seems to work for me. But whatever works for you, figure that out. But you can't have those conversations, those crucial ones, until you know what exactly your boundaries are. And then once you know what your boundaries are, then you can start to state them. Now, if people start disrespecting your boundaries after you stated them, then you got to have the rougher conversations, and or all bets are off, depending on what the situation is. But at least you respected them enough to be like, yo, you're crossing the boundary. And I've had some conversations with loved ones, people I care about, even people I work with, where I've said that to them as far as boundaries, and they didn't even realize they were crossing it. And I was like you didn't? And they were like, no. And I was like, are you serious? And so I was thinking, oh, they're doing this stuff on purpose because they're disrespecting me. No, actually, not only were they not disrespecting me on purpose, they didn't even realize they were doing it. Again, get you a therapist. Shout out to Dr. Jackson. You know what I mean? The shirt link is below. That's what helps with that. It could be meditation. It could be journaling. It could be getting a therapist. But some way to have that self-awareness so you know how you're showing up. I could have a whole extra episode on that. But check out last week's episode about shadow. The link is right below. There's also mini episodes or clips from it now that I'm starting to do at Bring Your Worth TV. So if you don't watch that whole episode, find out the 2 or 3 questions, the subject matters that matter the most to you from that episode. You can check them out at Bring Your Worth TV. Have a good 5-10 minute session with me. See what's happening, and then see what's going on in the comments too. The second part about it, again, you want to make sure that it's loud and clear. So it's not enough to say, I have this boundary, I have this want, I have this need. You also have to voice it to the other person. Can't emphasize that enough. All right. Book recommendation of 48 Laws of Power. I lent it to someone, and then someone took my power. I have no idea where it is. Shout out to 50 Cent. I don't know where the book is. I don't know. It's been missing for a while. I might as well just cough it up and get a new version of it. Whoever has it, well played. Well played. I hope you're making use of the laws. 48 Laws of Power, really simple. Best-selling book, millions sold. I think it came out, God, that has to be 20 years ago. I'm thinking about where I physically was when I got the book. And I think I was living in New Orleans. I was in New Orleans during Katrina. That gets you how far back this book was when I read it. And I think it was an old book back then. So I want to say it's about 25 years old. Shout out to Robert Greene. He's had some health issues. I hope you're doing better. And I love the work that you're doing on YouTube. Definitely check out his stuff. Remember, it's Green with an E. Fantastic book. It's a long book, but each of the 48 laws is only about 5 to 10 pages. Awesome audiobook, by the way, too. When I did my last road trip, I listened to it. These 48 laws are about how you can empower yourself in any situation. I'll mention one of them, which is my favorite, is I always have a different favorite, but plan all the way to the end. If you want a certain outcome, work backwards from there. Shout out to Stephen Covey or Stephen Covey and all these other folks who have talked about that, but working your way backwards. So if you're setting boundaries, and if you have a particular relationship with a certain person, you're like, I don't want to be hostile to him anymore. I'm tired of us arguing. What does that relationship look like? And then work backwards from there. If you start getting upset when they're crossing your boundaries, then working backwards, obviously you need to state what those boundaries are. Now, if they don't respect those boundaries, then you guys go into a different category, like I just said. That goes into planning all the way to the end. If you want to understand the direction that you're going in, then you have to know where actually you want to go. Otherwise, you can't get upset when you still have that same basic, frankly, bad relationship with that one person. That's just one simple one. Speaking of power, one of my favorite episodes that didn't get a whole lot of shine when it came out, it was about a year and a half ago. I Am the Manager meme. If you're familiar with the meme, you know what I'm talking about. If not, you just click on the video. You know, if you're familiar with internet culture, you know exactly what it is. It's basically saying that you are the manager of your life and you are setting up everything. And so if you change the dynamics and if you act differently and you show up differently to those so-called difficult people, they have no choice but to show up differently or to leave your life. That's it. The saying, it takes two to tango, there's a reason for that. If you start doing the cha-cha and they're used to doing the tango and you're determined to do the cha-cha, they're going to have to adjust. And it's not even a power thing as far as like you're going to take control over them. It's more about you really taking control over you. That's all I got to say about that one. And so if you're not, I talked about this in a previous joindamon.me newsletter. Again, you can go to joindamon.me where I talk about self-regulating and over-regulating. If you're regulating yourself properly in a way that works for you and you're as cool as a fan, but you're showing up with thoughtfulness and effort, then other people are going to have to adjust. And that's not a bad thing. Maybe y'all aren't meant to have a relationship, or maybe it's supposed to be more on the outskirts, or maybe they thought you were showing up a certain way and they thought you were being difficult, but now that you're showing up in a quote unquote better way, maybe the relationship improves. There's beautiful power in that. Be sure to check out this video as well as Robert Greene's work. It's been real, y'all. I think we covered a lot of territory. Hopefully it gave you some insight for your next step. Remember Dr. Jackson, her shirt, Get You a Therapist, my favorite shirt. Go ahead and check it out in the links below. This is Bring Your Worth TV. Come to you every Wednesday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. There's 372 episodes before this. So if you're liking this insight in this game and you're trying to build yourself up as a side hustle or solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur, please take advantage of it. I'm an entrepreneurial coach. Come over to damonbrown.net if you want to coach with me one-on-one. And the Bring Your Worth collection is available everywhere, including at damonbrown.net. Much love to y'all. And I'll see you in a week. Until next time, remember, you can always bring your worth. You can always build from now. Take care of yourselves and others.